Hey, my next video in positive words, positive choices. This is going to be one kind of dealing with an inability to really make a good choice. And it's kind of bounce all around. When I was a kid, I remember my dad was a really firm believer in that if your dog was sick or in suffering, he would say, "You never ever let a dog suffer." It's really a horrible thing to do. They're animals, they're only here for a short time. You don't want to ever let an animal suffer. He would say, like, when horses break their leg on the racetrack, they shoot them. And he's like, when dogs are sick and can't, live without being in pain, he'd say they'd put them to sleep. And he would always say to me, I'm talking, I was a young kid. It was weird he would talk about this, but he'd say, and it's a shame that we're humane like that with animals, but we don't do the same for humans. And humans kind of have to suffer and live at a point when they shouldn't be. And I remember him saying to me when I was young, I don't know how old, but he'd be like, when I'm old, if I don't know where I'm at and don't know who I am anymore, I'm suffering, I just want to be put out of my misery. So fast forward to when like 41 years old, and he has Alzheimer's and dementia, and he was suffering. And, imagine that you remember what your dad said to you, that not to let him suffer, but what are you going to do? Right. You can't do anything about that. So that kind of sucked. You're kind of like stuck knowing that he wouldn't want to be like that, yet there's nothing you could do about it, and you just have to try to make the person as happy as they can be. Okay, so now is it just a personal story about something that happened recently. In the summer, August, my dog was told that he has a testicular tumor, and they wanted to remove it. And in the process of like putting him out to remove it, and they had to draw blood work, they basically found out that he has a disease called ITP, which is like you have really dangerously low platelets, and like he could have died. All right, so that was going on for a while. He couldn't have the surgery, and he kept having these meds for ITP. And he got to a point where basically it was over like a 24-hour, 48-hour period maybe, where he wasn't moving, wasn't eating, wasn't drinking. And when I brought him to the vet basically said that he's dying. He's dying. So I remember I had to go to Florida that day, the next day. So I kind of waited, still not moving the next morning, not responding to anything, obviously looking like he's in pain. I wake Wendy up and I say, I'm not letting him suffer. These are, in my head, what my dad said years ago. And I'm going to bring him, put him down. This is like 5:30 in the morning. I was like up all night with him, and I wake her up. I'm like, I'm just going to go. Before I go to Florida, I'm going to I had to play a gig down there. And I'm like, I'm going to put him down. I can't see him like this. It's the wrong thing to do. And Wendy said, she's like, no, just wait. You don't know. Like everyone could be wrong. The vet could be wrong. Maybe he's not dying. And in my head, I'm like, nah, the vet's probably right. But I'm listening to her saying, like, wait, am I wrong about this? And I always feel like I make good decisions in like situations that need good decisions to be made. I feel like I'm pretty level-headed that way. But we didn't, luckily she said no. She's like, we don't need to do that. Wait. And he got better. And, he's here. This is over 2 months later. He's fine. He still hasn't had his surgery. Whether we're going to do that or not, we don't know. The vet won't do it yet. The vet said we have to wait. But the point in all this is that sometimes you think you're right about something, and it takes another person to kind of say, hey, take a step back and think about this for a minute. And it made me realize that, I'm not always right. And you got to listen to other people sometimes because they're going to do things that will be right, you know. And I'm eternally grateful for that because, like, I mean, dude, thank God. I would never have known. I would have thought that, like, it was the right thing to do, and it wasn't. It wasn't. He's fine. The vet was wrong, and here we are. I mean, he looks not well right now. He's just sleeping. He's good. He's just tired. Positive words, positive choices. Hope that made sense. I feel like it was kind of all over the place again, but whatever.